guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Ken Block car rebuild video series. Today we're going to be doing the front and rear subframes. Car's already on the lift, so we're good there. Rear subframe is getting swapped with a WRX one that has disc brakes versus trying to take the knuckles apart, because it's just a nightmare. It's way easier to swap the whole thing out. And then the front subframe we're swapping out because the stock one doesn't have a cutout for the up pipe of the turbo. On the original car, I just cut a notch out and welded it back in and it worked fine. But with this car, we're trying to do things a little bit more correctly. So we're just gonna swap the old subframe out since it's really not that big of a deal to do. So, all right, let's get to it. Alright, so we got the entire rear cradle out of the car. Damn squirrels. Car's been sitting around for a while, but everything came apart great, apart from the exhaust, which no matter how few miles, those stupid flanges will always rust. But yeah, brake lines look good, and there's the entire cradle. And we're going to be swapping that out for a 02 WRX unit that's actually in pretty good shape for the year. And it's got the right gear ratio rear diff for my 6-speed transmission. It's got disc brakes. So, and it's got a VLSD, which is better than an open diff. Not by much, but a little bit better. So, next up we'll be dropping this down and slamming the new one in. Remember, work smarter, not harder. Drop the whole thing onto the floor. Alright, we got the new used disc brake, rear subframe, and axle differential assembly under the car. So we're going to lower the car, hook up the straps, pick it up, and set it on the transmission jack to install it. Just that easy. All right, subframe is up into position. So we're gonna put the camera down and pick the tools up and get this thing bolted in. Noticed once the diff was in that both axle boots were ripped. So no big deal to drop the diff down and replace these now versus dealing with it later. All right, get the new axles in. Good tip, if you ever have to replace an axle on your pre-2008 Impreza or Forester, this bolt never comes out. Like, unless the car has never seen winter and never seen any kind of rust, this bolt will not come out. You'll have to cut the bolt, get new bushings, pound the bushings out of the arms, possibly replace the arms. It's a freaking nightmare. So the way to do it is just drop the diff down. And with it down like that, if you have a wheel bearing that's bad, you can take the brakes and all that crap off, and then you can use one of the on-car wheel bearing removers, and you can do the entire wheel bearing job without dealing with this stupid bolt, because that bolt sucks. It's a nightmare. They never come out. Like I said, it's probably one of the worst things to ever try to take apart on a Subaru. So it's a good tip. If you have to do any of those jobs, drop the diff. Drop the exhaust, drop the diff, and you're golden. All right, that pretty much wraps up the rear crossmember, diff, suspension, disc brake install conversion, whatever you want to call it. Just gonna hook up the brake lines, jam another couple of bolts in the struts, which are temporary because those struts are coming out and the STI pinks from the other car are going in. So yeah, fairly straightforward and simple. All right, so rear cradle's done. So next step is going to be to swap out the front cradle. Usually I just do this when the motor was out, but I'm not ready to make the car undrivable yet, because that means I have to push it around if I have to work on something else in here. So I can swap out the cradle and the steering rack with the parts that are going to stay in it without dropping the motor, and then doing the motor can be done later. Like, that's not a big deal. So doing the cradle's pretty easy. All right, cradle's out. That took just about 30 minutes, which is pretty quick. Biggest shock and surprise and was these fittings. These always fight you, and these ones came off literally by hand once you broke them free. So that's pretty cool. Guess that's what happens when you're taking apart cars with 37,000 miles on them. Everything like doesn't fight you every step of the way. So unlike the other car, which is going to fight me every step of the way because it's been sitting around for a really long time. So the this one will be easy, that one will be hard. So at least they're not both hard. I'll take that. First broken bolt of the entire project has to be an exhaust stud. It's always an exhaust stud. This side came off. Wasn't very happy, but they came off. But we'll weld a nut to that, and it should come right out. It's pretty standard. It's definitely not out of the ordinary. All right, so we got front subframes back in using the WRX steering rack. Rear subframe is done. So all that's left to do down here is swap the front and rear struts to the ones from the other car, and swap the front steering knuckles to, since those ones are already modified for the bigger brakes. So rather than trying to modify these ones, I'll just swap the whole things out. But yeah, making progress. Next up is going to be wiring and interior swaps. So as you can see, the other car is in here now. So yeah, that'll be the next step. What's up, guys? So the next step of the Impreza project, we got both cars inside now, so we can swap the suspension over, and the interiors and the wiring. The wiring is definitely going to be the bigger project, but if I did it once, I'd probably figure out how to do it again. But it's way too nice today to not take that out. Not very often it's 55 degrees in February in Maine, especially with no rain, blue sunny sky. So sorry, Imprezas, the R8 gets to come out for a little fun. I'll have to do a video series on this thing at some point. 6-speed manual, V10, twin turbo, running Cyvex ECU. So Project Impreza will continue tomorrow. Interior and wiring swap.